Every January, Las Vegas welcomes the Adult Video News Adult Entertainment Expo, the AVN AEE. Think of it like Comic-Con, but for adult entertainment. It brings together fans with their favorite stars, but it's also billed as the world's biggest conference and trade show for those that are in the industry. And I went. Today on CityCast Las Vegas, I'm here with burlesque entertainer Dirty Martini. She and I walked the floor of the AEE together, and we're going to share our most scandalous sightings. It's Monday, February 3rd. I'm Sarah Lohman, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Dirty Martini, we both went to the Adult Entertainment Expo for the first time on Thursday. It was such a pleasure to walk the floor with you.
It was a wonderland.
It was.
It's like walking into an adult novelty store, but with Willy Wonka by your side. Thank you so much for a lovely day.
I'm the Willy Wonka.
You were the Willy Wonka of this situation.
Oh, my God. I feel like you were cracking me up constantly. So let's get into our first impressions. Like, what did you think this show was going to be versus the reality that we saw?
Well, I really thought, like you said, it's a Comic-Con. It's if you've ever been to a convention, you're going to end up at the end of the day with your exhausted walking the floor with a bag of swag. Only this bag of swag, is going to be a little bit more titillating, if you like.
Not as titillating as I would have liked, Dirty, honestly.
Yes, exactly.
The swag bag was a little conferencey. We got pens. We got some stress balls. Honestly, speaking of swag bags, I should say the best swag bag that I got was from the Faustian Society. Paul from the Faustian Society, who runs these fetish balls all over the world, handed us this swag bag that was black plastic. You couldn't see in it. And inside was an absolute pile of lube, a leather collar, like a fetish collar, and I think drugs. Did you take a closer look at these?
I did see that. Yes, I did see that. And I wanted to talk to you first because I know you know a lot about food.
I thought you were going to say drugs. The thing is, I don't. I actually just texted some friends and they wrote back, "Are you a cop? You have to tell us if you are." They're gummies from a company called Nootropics. And they say they have 0.25 grams in them. But of what? I don't know. Mushrooms, I think? You know what? I've got nothing going on tonight. I might give them a whirl, to be honest.
That's what I thought. Same here.
Yeah. That actually goes along with what kind of surprised me about the experience. So I was sort of surprised by how normal it was in two ways. Let me clarify, and then you could tell me if you felt the same way. The sort of fetish corner was one of the most diverse areas that I saw. Diverse body types, diverse ethnicities. We went at another table it was also a fetish table. It was one of the few tables that was going to have male stars signing. For the most part, it was cis female stars and there at the conference and their sort of adult films. And then the fans were, for the most part, male for those stars. And I think I expected more variety in the sexuality of humanity. What do you think?
Absolutely. Yes, I felt like the only people that kind of reflected different body types were walking the floor.
Yeah, what if it's the biggest porn convention? There's a lot more going on in porn, I feel like, than who we saw represented for the most part at this conference.
Well, there were a lot of dudes. What you would typically see at any festival, kind of like a country music festival, kind of a middle-aged father type.
Yeah. Yes. That makes sound very wholesome.
Kind of wandering, maybe some long hair in a ponytail.
Yeah, like a Comic-Con vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
And most of the men, a lot of them had a camera in front of their faces too. Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah.
They were taking their own photos and videos and stuff and were putting a camera into the star's face before they were necessarily interacting with people.
Well, we were talking to a lovely a star of one of the
Autumn Rain,
Autumn Rain. Wonderful, opened up to us quite a bit, and we
local
chatted.
star.
A local star and from Las Vegas area, and it was so funny. You two were chatting, and this man pulls up with a big camera in his face and was like, "Goddess, can I take your picture?" And she says, "I'm talking," like in that dominatrix voice that she just pulls it out, and I was like, "Oh,
She
oh,
was
we got
so
to see
sweet.
some realness."
And she just shut him down because we were having a
So
conversation.
quick,
It was lovely.
she
You did make
whimpered
me take
away.
my photo with a guy who was walking around the floor named the Milkman. And he was dressed as a 1950s milkman. And you were like, "You're writing a book about ice cream. Go get your photo with him." So he was just sort of there as a local enthusiast, it seems.
Well, yeah, I mean, there were a handful of those people wearing their bodycon outfits,
Yeah.
that were definitely advertising their wares. And confidentially, I may have seen that man in a film, The Milkman.
People knew who you were, Dirty. It was really delightful. And like, yeah, Paul at Faustine was like a friend of a friend. So, we saw people we knew. The people in the industry were so, 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 so lovely. Is there something or someone we saw that like really surprised you?
I think it's mostly the fact that, the porn stars look like a porn star. And
Yeah, the women that were there, 90% of the women had a very typical body type, I would say. Yeah.
exactly, typical look, really,
Yeah.
and it's like when you turn on your, glossy porn, you get what you're going to get in a way.
Mm.
And I felt like, wow, it's so marketed, and
Mm-hmm.
so to a particular eye for sure. So when we walked into the gay village, which was this one line of more diversity for sure. It was like you
Yeah.
could tell because there were rainbow flags and
Yeah.
disco balls. And honestly, the mood was so much lighter and so much more welcoming and open. And I was like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
in the gay village. That's what it is. So that
Yeah.
surprised me quite a bit. I thought, because I've heard in my career that there are so much more little avenues you can go down if you want to get into that business, and you can be quite successful. So
Yeah.
it did surprise me that there wasn't more body diversity, age diversity,
Yeah.
the whole nine yards, even
We barely
more
saw any
men.
men. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have to say the thing that really surprised me, and you got to witness it, is when we were in the trade show, which was a lot of like makers of sex toys who are looking for buyers, and we got to the sex robots table, and he turned the sex robot on. Do you
Oh, you
remember?
were freaked out. Oh, this woman does not like the uncanny valley.
So they were life-size robots that were molded off of porn stars, not ones I was familiar with. And they were sort of like a real doll, like if someone has seen like Lars of the Real Doll, but they were mechanical. And the texture of their skin was weird. I did sort of like grab her robot wrist. It was like sticky and squishy. And then he turned her on, and she was on her hands and knees, she the robot, and she moved like, those like old-timey mechanical soldier toys that like crawl along the ground. That was like the extent and how smooth her movement was. And I did not like it. I was really
You
horrified.
did not.
Not to yuck anybody's yum. You know what? Enjoy yourselves.
I find that stuff very interesting, like the idea that you'd want to create a character in your mind and
Yeah,
have
yeah.
that be your companion.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and the kind of the way it does help some people to kind of engage sexually, I think it has some merit.
I do highly recommend the Real Girl Doll documentary, which does give you a great deal of empathy for someone who might choose a lifestyle with or have a real doll as part of their life. The technology on the robots has a way to go. So there's two things I also want to give some context to. Some people call this the Oscars of porn, but that's only one night. The Adult Video News gives out its like porn awards over this, 4-day period. There's a big award ceremony. Interestingly, we were going to go on the first day on Wednesday, but at that point there was still a strike on at Virgin with the Culinary Workers Union. We didn't think we were going to go. We didn't want to cross the picket line. We were heartbroken but supportive. And then Wednesday afternoon, the strike resolved. They came to a contract agreement, so we did end up going, which is incredible. And the last context I want to add is that the Adult Entertainment Expo actually used to be a part of the Consumer Electronics Show, which is earlier in the month of January. So it is formerly, up until 2012, associated with tech. Other than the robots that I didn't personally like, did you see any other items that felt particularly connected to tech?
Well, I think that we both really enjoyed talking to the people at Sensera,
Yes. Yeah.
which is a new kind of toy that actually, through an app and through sensors, responds to your body as a woman as you're using it. So it self
Yeah.
lubricates.
It has a little capsule that you plug in and you can, run it manually or run it through an app with different programs. And it's also has programming for different health issues. Like I certainly have a win in my life that I had to do those like medical dildos to like size up the size of their vagina because there's a variety of reasons that your vagina can be too tight. You can have injuries and trauma. And the idea is that this is a vibrator and a toy for female pleasure, but also for health too. Yeah, that was super, super interesting. You pointed out, though, when we were leaving that, we saw so many sex toys dirty, literally hundreds, and they were all basically the same thing. Like I ended up being way less interested in the vibrator tech than I thought I was going to be. Because other than maybe that one, there was nothing really revolutionary. And honestly, as I was like going through my notes and my swag, the one that I realized I'm the most happy to have, did you know that we got a tiny free vibrator?
I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. I thought it was a chapstick, and I picked it up and I was like, how do you get the chapstick out? I was so happy. We got
Me
a
too.
vibrator. High
This is what I
five.
never wanted. High five. So it was from My Free Cams, which was the sponsor of the show this year. And Sensara did give us a chapstick as well. So really, we made out like bandits. All right. Should we get into like our top picks? I'm thinking we'll do a top five. Like you start at 5, I'll do 4, then you do 3, then I'll do 2, and then we'll both have a number 1. How does that feel?
Sounds great.
Okay. So what was your number 5 most wonderful or scandalous thing you saw at the AEE this year?
Well, I have to say my number 5 is all the different Chinese makers that were there. I mean, I felt like they weren't really as involved in the community as
Mm-hmm.
everyone else was. We met so many people that are making toys and based in the United States. And
Yeah.
so it was interesting to me, but also disappointing to see all the Chinese makers there.
It was fascinating. In the sort of novelty showroom, I would say that 80% of the teams that were there were manufacturers in China. The bright side is that they all put out bowls of candy, and I did like that. Okay, so number 4, one of my favorite things I already shouted out was sort of the fetish section with the Lair and the Faustian Society. Listen, the Faustian Society throws amazing parties in San Francisco, New York, LA, and Vegas, and they are just a good time with fun outfits and amazing performers, including sometimes Dirty Martini. We had such a nice time talking to Paula Faustin Society. They were so lovely. Oh God, and there was the a woman in the puppy mask, but also the woman that had like the devil horns too and the amazing purple hair. All right. Anyway,
Gorgeous.
what's your third favoriteest thing that you saw at AEE?
I like the guys that were trying to elevate the masturbation game for men.
Bader
Uh,
Balm.
Bader Balm. They
That's
were
them.
so sweet, and they looked like they belonged in a barber shop, and they had the nicest
Yeah, they
candles.
had like newsboy caps and like denim aprons. Yeah, and you could buy like a whole like it's all about creating a moment for you to masturbate as a man. There was a candle. There was the it's not lube. It was balm. Good
Yeah,
smelling balm.
yeah, it smelled like the most wonderful outdoorsy campfire.
Yeah.
And it just felt like it really created a scent mood. And I don't know, I'm a woman. I need to create a mood.
Yeah.
But a lot of men do too.
There was a monogram towel. It was like a very masculine personal moment. Um, you know what my number two most favorite thing was?
Yes.
STD Hero, the STD at home STD testing.
Yes. That was
They were really cool.
amazing. They were great people. They own the
Yes.
lab.
Yeah, I know you were talking to them too about some of the idea is like, what if this is a teenager? What if there's someone living at home? What if someone, if there's a million reasons someone can feel very self conscious about going into a lab for testing or going to your family doctor for testing? So they offer 5 different tests that you can take at home. And, it's all done very confidentially, approved lab. It's all very accurate too. So, like, that was really, really cool to see. Okay, that brings us to our number ones is. What is your number one most favoriteest thing that you saw on the AEE floor?
I have to say it was that Sincera
Yeah.
product, that vibrator, uh, sort of tied with the man who was in real estate who made the 3 motor vibrator with a different kind of engine.
Yeah, he was a sex toy designer and he and his wife worked on the products and he had started in real estate and gone to sex toys.
Yes, it's called Lux with
Lux,
three
yes,
X's.
Luxxxe. And
E.
it has a tungsten motor. And one of the toys he showed us had 3 different motors in 3 different parts.
Amazing that you could control all these different parts. It would take me probably 5 years to figure out how that
I was a little
toy worked,
stressed.
but
Yeah.
I did love just because it's just one button and 5 different motors, and I don't know what's going on. But I really enjoyed talking to those two particularly because of the female positivity that they exuded in their product. What they didn't talk the talk saying we're a toy for women and then just go ahead and make the design choices willy nilly. They
Mm-hmm.
really he talked to his wife. She talked to people who survivors of trauma that are
Mm-hmm.
trying to get their sexuality back and get their mojo back. So for me, that was really life affirming to hear them talk all about really open sexuality and all the different facets that are contained within.
Okay, my absolute favorite thing that I saw slash people that I talked to were the TSOA accountants. Do you remember them?
Yes, I was going to mention them in mine as
I
well.
loved the accountants. Literally, this is an accounting firm that set up a table. Their main office is in Hawaii, but they've got satellite offices all over the place, including here in Las Vegas. They work with people in the industry, they work with sex workers. She was just like, yeah, you know how many write offs you can get? Like, if you're in the industry, you can write off your lingerie. Ooh, and Dirty, you had such a good anecdote about that. Like, tell your story.
Oh, of course, Las Vegas. The
Mm-hmm.
king of Las Vegas, not Elvis, but Liberace made it so that we all, as performers, could write off our costumes. And how he did that was by strolling casually in his pink clamshell cape
Mm-hmm.
and matching boots, all in Swarovski crystal, to the IRS offices. And they
I
asked
love it.
him, Lee, Mr. Liberace, why are you dressed so flamboyantly in our offices for our meeting? And he said, well, it's because you said this is street clothes.
Ah! It's brilliant. If you are a Las Vegas professional and you need an accountant, it's T-SOA. They really know their stuff. And you know what? They also have a not-for-profit side where they work with financial literacy for underserved communities. So I love talking to them.
They
So,
were
all right,
great.
Dirty, let's say that you are suddenly in charge of planning AEE. What would you do differently? What would you bring to the floor?
I would think that trying to find more avenues as a creator of the whole
Mm-hmm.
thing. I know that Dita Von Teese used to go to AVN with Catherine
Mm,
Delish, who
mm,
people know from her robes, but she was a master stripteaser. They had a duet that they were selling in the strip clubs as a
mm.
feature dancer. So they would go for signings and try to get more feature dancing work through the clubs. And so I think that it would have been great to see more of that, more of like, how can
Hmm.
we see these stars in person in other avenues? And my company is focused on that. It just seemed like a lot of sex toys.
Hmm. Is a lot of sex toys, and as we figured out, all sex toys are kind of the same. That was my big takeaway. So, why is Las Vegas the perfect home for the AVN AEE?
Well, on the outside, it seems like Las Vegas is the place to let it all hang out, don't you think? Like that's how people think
Absolutely.
of it. What do
Yeah.
you think about that, about Vegas and the adult world?
One of the things that I love about Las Vegas, with some caveats, is that this is a place for freedom. Like, here we are recording this podcast and talking about this event like it's the most normal thing ever, which it is and which it should be. And especially because it seems like we're moving into a time of like socially conservative politics. There's even been threats of like porn bans. And this is just like humanity filled this event filled with the nicest people, and it's something that I appreciate that Las Vegas protects. Now, that being said, I do think that a lot of sex culture within Las Vegas is very heteronormative, that it's about male female relationships and like a swingers community. And I think that it is time to throw a more inclusive net, both at this official event, but both for our city as a whole. What do you
Yes,
think of them apples?
I
Yes.
love those apples, and I'll take the oranges and the bananas too.
And if you want to see some of Dirty Martini's oranges and bananas, I guess just your oranges. She is currently in residence with Dita Von Teese's show at Voltaire. You'll be here through May at least. I saw the show at the Horseshoe. It was fabulous. I can't wait to see it at Voltaire because you've told me it's a much more intimate experience too.
Yes, it's much more close up. You can see the costumes so beautifully, which
Mm.
is really I mean, it's a treasure trove of Las Vegas costuming from Peter Menefee and from Bob Mackie,
Oh,
still from the Horseshoe Show Jubilee.
how cool. Well, and it was incredible to see Dita perform in person, I have to say. And Dirty, you were just so talented and so funny. You mix comedy and sexuality like the master that you are.
Well, I do wish that more people could enjoy their sexuality openly in our world. And
Mm,
like you said, I think we've got a long road ahead of us in that department.
yeah. Yeah. All right, Dirty, thank you so much. I had such a good time with you.
I did too. I had a blast. What fun.
What fun. That's all for today here in CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend. Take some time to rate our show and leave us a review where you get your pods, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Take care. We're good. We made Sonia laugh a lot, Dirty.
Oh, that's so good.
It is
Yay.
so good. Well, we're delights. All right. Yes, you are, she says. Thanks, Sonia.